Hello, hello. So, sun's still sorta out, but it's just cloudy, it's rainy, it's beautiful, I'll be honest with you guys. But only reason I'm coming so early is because I wanted to talk about old habits, whether they're in the gym or in our life. And now sometimes, you know, old habits die hard, or it's really hard to move on from old habits. Whether or not it's like a toxic thing, or maybe it was a pretty productive thing. You know, we gotta see, like, you know, why we're trying to get rid of them and why we're trying to move on. For me, specifically, my goals change. And that's kind of why I moved out of my old habit. Which would be, right, I'm gonna get into it, to put like just like a basis to like introduce what I'm talking about. So I guess like now that I'm a few years into the college, right, you kind of get to like reflect back on going from responsibilities, or sorry, you go from like having no responsibilities in high school to having like a bunch of them in the college, depending on, you know, if you're working, if you're taking care of people, you know, your studies, group projects, all that stuff, right? Whereas, you know, in high school, you're only really responsible for showing up to school, doing the homework, studying, and then coming back home, right? That's all it kind of boils down to. Maybe it is more intricate, you know, maybe if you have like, if you're part of a team, if you're doing sports, extra curricular activities, right, it always gets more complicated. But for, I feel like myself, or, you know, other people, it really just came down to, you know, showing up, doing the work, and that's it. So legitimately, like, no responsibilities. So for me, my some of my habits were, since I knew that going to college wasn't going to be an easy thing, right? Not that I was a bad student or anything, but I just knew myself, and I was like, I was like towards senior year, I think, that I was getting good grades. So I reflected on it, I was like, wait, it's gonna be kind of bad if, you know, I'm just now starting to do good. You know, college might be a bit rougher for me. So I still did habits. What were those habits, you may ask? Right now it's kind of like a meme, but, you know, waking up super early, getting a lot of shit done. You know, we kind of meme about that, but the way I see it is, waking up super early, number one, is kind of pointless. I found out, like that 4 a.m. or like waking up at 5 a.m. kind of pointless in my opinion. I feel like, yeah, you can get a lot of stuff done, but at the same time, if you don't procrastinate throughout the day, you can do the same amount of things, right? And so to me, I woke up one time at like 4:30 in the morning, and I started off my day like that, right? Kind of just studying and getting a bunch of certifications started. So for me, it was a Comp A+, a Google certification, IT certifications, Python certifications, you know, JavaScript, you know, the sort of stuff that either a comp sci or like an engineering student would do. And so that's kind of the stuff that I got into at an early young age. And so I started going to the gym around this time as well. So what ended up happening was, I would wake up super early, start studying. So I would split up, depending on when I studied, or depending on when I woke up, I would split up those hours. So I would do like 1 hour for this, 1 hour for that, 1 hour for this. I would eat, then go back, and then around like 11, 12, 1-ish. So from 11 to 1, that was where I kind of like started like relaxing and just shifting gears and going to the gym, right? So let's say around 12:30, I would be going to the gym, right? And the way I saw it was, I would accumulate a bunch of stress, and I would go to the gym and kind of release that stress. And then coming back, I would eat a meal, and I would get back to studying. And then after like, I think 5, I would stream, because I used to stream, if you guys have been along If you guys have been along for like the very first few episodes, I would stream. So that was that. And so as time went on and I got more busier, I realized that, you know, this like perfect routine that I had wouldn't be able to sufficely be hit every single day. But what I could do is I could modify it and try my best every single day. And so that's kind of where we're at right now, you know. I'm waking up super early, not by choice, right? But I wake up super early, I study, I eat, and then I would go to the gym, come back, eat, study some more, and then kind of take the night to relax, right? Some days I do it, some days I do that more than others, and then some days I just don't do it at all. And for the longest time right now, my routine would be to get in as many meals as possible and then go to the gym, right? And so around that mindset, I would schedule study times and literally nothing else. And that would be my routine, right? But as we're closing into the semester and I was going into the summertime, I found myself that I'm getting back into an old habit, of an old routine of mine, right? And so to some of us that are like, you know, kind of slipping into that old lifestyle, and you know, you might think it's bad. I'll be honest with you, sometimes if it is like really a bad, toxic lifestyle and, you know, hobbies that you had, then I feel like you should cut it off. But if you think that, you know, going backwards is a bad thing, sometimes you know, it's always like a step forward, right? And I'll say to some people, like, even if you step back, it's still a step forward technically, because you're still moving, you know. And maybe, you know, maybe if you go back to this old lifestyle, you know, with the knowledge you have now and the experiences, maybe it'll be better, you know. It's not so much that you're doing the wrong thing and you're going into the wrong lifestyle. It's just like you're switching routines. That's it. You know, your routine was ABC, and then that was your old routine. Your old routine was ABC. Your new routine is now CBA, right? And so instead of, you know, creating like a ACB, you're just gonna go back to ABC. You know, same shit you've always been doing, except you just switched a few letters around. Is the outcome gonna be the same? Obviously, you know, now that you have more experience, now that you have new priorities, maybe it will, you know. Maybe like going to the gym was a struggle for you for a long time, and you know, with this new schedule, going to the gym, you were able to do it, right? You were able to squeeze it in. But it's not something that you're comfortable with, because some days you are fighting to go to the gym because that's how busy you are, right? But when you're in your old routine, the gym wasn't guaranteed. Like, yes, I could go there, you know, no problem, and I would get a good workout every single time. Maybe that's what you need to go get back into, right? If time permits, and if you see yourself with the opportunity to go back to that routine, then why shouldn't you take it, right? Oh, it's because that was an old me, and like I have to move on from that. You know, the old you might have not been the best version of yourself, right? But it was a version of you that was able to get to where you are now, right? So it's like, you know, it's like a level 100 going back to the level 1 area. You appreciate it, right? You're like, damn, so this is where I started off. And you know, you might have missed a few things, you know. I think if you want to take it more like a video game approach, if you guys remember that was sick as fuck, almost. That was sick as shit. If you guys remember in Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. Funny story about that, but I don't know if I can say it, so I'm not gonna say it. Just know that the Pirate Bay was used. If you guys know what I mean, you guys know what I mean. I don't know if I can really get away with saying that. But anyway, in that game, at the very end, there's a hidden boss. That's extremely hard, right? the Rage Demon. I believe that's his name. Extremely fucking hard boss, by the way. But the only way you got that was by beating basically the whole game right before you go to the final boss. You go back to the starting area, and that's where you face the final boss, right? So if you want to think about it like that, is like you start off in your starting area, level 1 area, right? And then you go through your journey, right? You get to the very end of your journey, right? You have all this accumulated points, these skills, the knowledge, the know-how, you know, all this stuff with you. It doesn't hurt to go back to where you started. And in this case, if you go back to where you started, you know, you're gonna face this impossible enemy, right? You're gonna face your hardest enemy. Maybe this could be like, oh, this is the reason why I stopped, or this is why I was the way I was. And you're gonna be able to confront it with a better mindset. You know, you're better prepared to take on this task that once broke you down. You're gonna be now able to defeat it and understand, you know, its rage, its reason for your transformation, which I think is beautiful, you know. In the early stages, I changed because of an event, and then when I was a stronger version of myself, I came back and I was able to defeat that person. I think in that way, not only are you conquering your demons, we'll say, but you're also going to be growing more as a person, as an individual, you know. And I think nowadays a lot of people have that mindset, that hope core, which is good, right? I hate it, like when, you know, I was changing, you know, and everywhere you saw it was like kind of like this weird ass edits where I never really liked them. I made jokes maybe on my TikTok about them, but I never really liked the idea of like working out to an edit about, oh, you're working hard and getting bread while your ex is getting passed around. Like, that's like, I don't think that's a good mindset to be in, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm working out because my ex is getting passed around. Like, is that like a really, like, I don't think that's not a healthy thing to be in, you know what I'm saying? That's just the way I'm looking at it. I don't know if I'm crazy, but if that shit got you through the day and that shit made your day, I mean, kudos to you, but I think that it's morally weird. That's all I'm gonna say, you know? There's a few examples, maybe, like you can make it the argument that, like, well, what about working out for dead relatives? You know, like, I mean, there's an example that I'm thinking about, but I don't want to say it because I don't think it's a good comparison. But we'll say it for just whatever. This Olympic lifter lost his wife to cancer, I believe, and so she wanted to be there when he got the gold medal. And right before she died, the only medal he was able to get from the Olympics of clean and jerks, right, was silver. And so after her death, the very, like, legitimately the very first one after her death, he got the gold medal, right? So he was doing it for her, and you know, it was really emotional. There was a lot of like animations about it where she was there helping him out, and every time I see it I tear up. So it was really fucking good, and that shit motivates the fuck out of me. That's what I like to see, you know, motivating for a positive reason, you know. Not saying that motivation can't come from something negative, but if it takes your, like, you breaking up with a girl and then thinking about her getting passed around for you to be the best version of yourself, I mean, what's the outcome? Like, are you gonna like take her back again? Like, or are you going to, like, you know, belittle her? Like, I feel like if you do that, you really didn't go, you went in a circle, right? Like, we're in the same spot, but just you have money now, we'll say. That's the way I see it, you know. But that's just me. You know, I work in mysterious ways, you know, so it could just be me. But that's what I want to talk about. Don't be afraid of going back to the old ways, old routines, habits. You know, yes, we grow, yes, we move out of them, but sometimes looking back and enjoying that lifestyle that we once had could teach us a thing or two about why we changed. So that's what I'm talking about. But talking about the workout today, right? It's back day. So nothing really crazy, I want to say. We've been doing the same, you know, 4 movements. So, you know, I think the only thing I'm going to change today actually is we're going to be adding a row at the beginning of the workout. I want to say because we always start off every other day with a compound movement. Even on arms, we'll do like just like tomorrow we're gonna do like a straight bar curl, but that's nothing new. Like that's not something like, oh, I've never done it before. No, I've done it before in the past. But for back, I used to do barbell rows, but not all the time. I don't want to deadlift because I think deadlifting would actually be too taxing on my body. Say what you want to say, Chris. Both of them. But I'm gonna start off with just 1 set, right? I'm gonna try to load up as much weight and just yank it for as many as I can, and then we're gonna do the low to high row. So we're gonna see how that goes. Still just pushing weight. We're gonna see if we can continue to progressively overload it. You know, adding like, you know, like I said, 5-10 pounds at the least, right? Then I'm thinking we're gonna move on to the lat pull downs, or we could go row into lat pull downs, into low to high rows, into like more of a high to low row. Or I could say fuck all that and go back to my old shit, which I mean, going back to the conversation we just had wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but I'm trying new things, right? Going back to doing 1 compound movement, and then yeah, we'll do that then. So we'll be, or also, by the way, side note, this is all in the realm of if there's even enough space for me to do all this stuff, because if certain machines are taking, I don't really feel like waiting. So whatever is given to me is what I'll do. You know, if I go through this, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F plan, it's nice, but I have to go through F, G, H, I, elemental P, and I'll do that. So a realistic approach today would be barbell rows, pull downs, low to high rows, pull over, and then high to low rows. The reason the first movement I don't really count too much is because it's like a compound movement. Kind of just get like, I'm gonna get blood everywhere. I'm gonna activate my system with, you know, a lot of weight. So I'm gonna prep it for the rest of the movement that I'm gonna do. So I think, you know, 1 compound movement to like wake up the fucking body. You know, obviously I would warm up, but in terms of like actually moving weight, doing a compound movement is gonna give you much more of a stimulus than an isolateral movement. In terms of like overall muscle groups, if that makes sense. I think doing a chest press is gonna be more fatiguing than doing like a machine chest press, just because the machine chest press, you're stabilized, you're doing chest movements, you're not really recruiting too much tricep, front delts, or forearms. You're just kind of pushing with your chest. Whereas if you do like, let's say a bench press, like a flat or an incline, you're recruiting, you know, a lot of muscle groups. You're arching your back, you're holding up the weight. So when you so you're holding it up with your forearms. When you come down, you're pressing up. Your triceps are involved, your front delts are involved, chest is doing most of the work. You might have some foot drive, you know. If you're into powerlifting, you know, your back may be getting tight. So it's like a lot of moving parts. Let's just put it like that. It's a compound movement. A lot of shit's happening. Isolateral movements, not so much. So I would recommend that you go from a compound movement to an isolateral. Yes, I would recommend that. But would I recommend you go from iso to compound? Not as much. But enough yapping. And let's get clapping. So I don't know if this is gonna get the whole thing, but also don't know how close I am to the camera. I'll do it a bit higher, just because. But the setup felt pretty good. I thought it was gonna be like a lot heavier. I don't know if that has to do with like the day or time, but or the straps. These are new straps because I forgot mine. I didn't talk about them in the beginning, and I'm sure they lost them, so I was like, might as well use them. But it felt really good. What I'm trying to do is a good cue is like once you get to past my knees, a tiny bit like right underneath like the knee bone or like towards my shins, like top place of my shin. That's when I start to roll, and I roll like into my pelvis. So it felt pretty good for like the first few 4. Towards the 5 and 6, obviously more fatiguing, and with the 6th one, going into the 7th one, it was failing. Especially with the movement. I don't think it's beneficial for you. I think it's just to grind the weight up, more like locking out like a deadlift. And I mean, there's a difference between me grinding out on the machine. That sounds so weird. There's a difference between me squeezing in the machine movement and squeezing in like a free weight movement. Maybe for like, even when it comes to like bench pressing, I think whenever you like grind it out at the very top, you kind of like putting more emphasis on locking out your elbows, so triceps, and your front legs get like a lot of into it, and your chest just kind of gives out. So I think for that reason, I think that's why maybe compound movements wouldn't be as good, just because you would inevitably wear out the main muscle group and force the supporting muscle groups to take over, which is not as like, you know, anabolic as you would want to, but it is what it fucking is. Regardless, 235 felt pretty good. I think moving on, I'm gonna mostly be doing like a slow increase, so like 10, 10, 10. It's just tight, and as I can't think of the word, but like I want to do like 25 next time, but I might just take it slow, because I'd rather build it to a huge number towards the summer than like crash and burn next week and I fucking go too fast. But I think now we're just gonna do high to low rows and low to high rows. So they're gonna be basic. Hello! Welcome back to my YouTube video, guys. Skinny Penis here. Oh, my glitter underwear. But on a serious note, that was a really good back workout. In terms of like sort of what happened at the very end, I tried to do something different with the high to low rows. Didn't like it. I'll be honest with you, I didn't like it, not one single bit. But I was already there, so I was like, fuck it, let me just see how it feels. Maybe like maybe if I continue to feel it out, it'll get better. Sometimes I think exercises like that are like that, you know, you kind of have to feel it out for a while. Kind of like the pullover machine. I didn't like it at first, I'll be honest, but then after a while I learned how to use it and how to like actually activate my lats, and it got way better. So but in terms of like everything else, it's a pretty good workout, I'm not gonna lie. I loved it. Everything was moving. I was kind of on the fence because here's my dilemma at the moment. Most of my lifts right now are in that 6-8 rep range, so I don't know if I should keep increasing the weight, where right now it would be mostly like 0.25 to 5 pounds, and keeping it at that like 6 to 8 rep range, but you know, good form and stuff like that, right? Obviously like newer exercises like the barbell row, I would obviously go heavier, obviously with these upcoming weeks, or I would try to push more weight just because I can, and I know myself, of course, right? It's not just like as I'm pushing weight because it's a compound movement. I'm pushing weight because A, I've done it in the past and I've gotten pretty high numbers, so I know I got that dog in me. But in terms of like legitimately everything else, not just for my back but for my legs, my arms, my chest, I'm getting to a point where most of the exercises are like that. So I'm thinking either I just need to do a slower increase in weight, or I can do the I can do what I want to do, which is, what was the other option? It was either increase it. Actually, hold up. I told the GC, the group chat, what my plan was. So I'm just gonna increase the weight going forward until I get to like, okay. So what I was gonna do is, oh sorry. Okay, so it was either I keep increasing the weight with slight increments of 2.5 to 5, or I stick with the weight I have right now, and instead of increasing the weight, I've spoken about how you can only increase realistically the weight so much until you break form, right? Not saying breaking form is inherently bad, but keeping good form and keeping good tension on the muscle has been shown to be effective. Duh. So in the spirit of keeping with that statement, what I would do is I wouldn't increase the weight, but I would increase the reps. So now I'll stick with, like, for example, 3 plates. I'll stick with 3 plates, but I'll try to get like that 7th rep, that 8th rep, that 9th rep. And once I get to 10 reps, that's when I would increase it by either, you know, again, 2.5, 10, or, you know, 15. But that's where my mindset is kind of at the moment in terms of my training. So yeah, we'll see. You know, it's either I'm chasing a bigger number, or I guess both. I'm either chasing like a legit bigger number in weight or a bigger number in reps. So that's my dilemma that I have right now. Though I'm pretty sure I'm gonna do the second option just because I love lifting heavy. So, you know, it is what it is. Also, I have access to 2.5, so it's not like I'm inherently gonna be stuck when if I can't increase it by 5. I'm kind of like fucked. Right now, I have the privilege to be able to increase it by 2.5s, so I'm gonna take advantage of it. With that being said, though, overall it was a good workout. Huge stretch, huge squeeze, loved it. Right now, all I left to do is to go home, eat a good meal, keep on studying for tomorrow's exams, and then I have something on Wednesday, and then Thursday, same old. But yeah, nothing to it but to do it. So hope you guys have an amazing day. Hope you guys had a good workout. Hope you guys are gonna have a good workout, or hope you guys will have a good workout. So eat your meals, drink your liquids, and get hella sleep.